Thank you for joining us today for the Sustainable Tourism for Native Nations and Communities Certificate Program with the Arizona State University Community Resource and Development and the Center for Sustainable Tourism. My name is Bianca Mitchell, and I'm the Education Manager for IENTA. For those of you who are not familiar with IENTA, for nearly 2 decades, IENTA has served as the national voice for American Indian nations and Native Hawaiians engaged in cultural tourism. In addition to serving as the voice for Indian country tourism, IENTA provides technical assistance and training to tribal nations and Native-owned enterprises engaged in cultural tourism, hospitality, and recreation. One of the greatest tools for our outreach and promotion of tribal tourism is our destination website, nativeamerica.travel. For more information, please visit our website at ienta.org. I just want to remind everyone, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll get to them at the end of the presentation. And right now, I'd like to introduce you to our speakers for today. We have Professor Kathleen Andrich, who is with the Sustainable Tourism Certificate Program. She is the coordinator at the Arizona State University. Kelly Bricker will be joining us. She is the interim director for the Center of Sustainable Tourism with ASU. We have Rebecca Goodman, the coordinator for the Master of Sustainable Tourism with ASU. And then we have Ben Rupert, who is the owner, CEO of Warriors Path. He is our guest speaker for today. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to Kathleen Andrich.
Thank you. Okay, let me see if I can make this work. Okay, it did. Well, I'm really happy to have you all join us today to learn more about our certificate program, Sustainable Tourism for Native Nations and Communities. And this is something I and a whole group of people at ASU, have been working on for, quite some time. You always think it'll take, a little while to get it done, and then it takes a lot longer. So, but we're really excited about this, and, our whole team of people are really looking forward to meeting with you starting very, very soon. The certificate starts in a little bit less than 2 weeks. So we've all been diligently getting our work done on the program. Okay, there it goes. All right. So let me tell you a little bit about our certificate program, and our guests will be speaking to a little bit later. So the purpose of this certificate is to provide you with an overview of sustainable tourism and how you can incorporate it into your tourism planning and development. So we're focusing not only on some of the main concepts of sustainable tourism and conceptual kinds of things, but we're also looking at actual tools that you can use and providing some of that for you. And we're offering this program as both a professional development option, which you can take, but also a university credit. So you can take this program for 1 credit, and it's a little bit more complicated to do that. So we're going to save how you do that to our last slide, so that those of you who aren't particularly inclined to take this for 1 credit don't have to listen to that part. But we thought it would be really useful to some of you to have this opportunity for credit. IENTA really wanted us to be able to do that for you, and so we've been able to do that. And it'll be 1 credit in a class at ASU, the same name as the certificate program, Sustainable Tourism for Native Nations and Communities. And I'm sure it will be transferable to other universities, but it can also count toward credit at ASU if you decide to come and do a degree with us. So the program starts 2 weeks from yesterday, so March 13th through April 28th, and that's half of the semester. So we're offering this through our online undergraduate degree in tourism and recreation management. And so we're kind of committed to these half semester blocks, which is how we teach our online classes. So those are going to be the dates, and we're pretty much locked in there because of offering this for credit. But it's plenty of time to do the program, so it'll be offered over that period of time with one module every week. So the certificate is through ASU's Center for Sustainable Tourism, which is housed in our School of Community Resources and Development. And the center's mission is to work with our partners, faculty, and students to examine the role and contribution of tourism in the social, cultural, environmental, and economic well-being of communities. And I put the link here in case you want to have a look at it at some point. It's a little out of date because we currently have an interim director who has a lot of other things going on. That's Kelly Bricker, who will be joining us in a few minutes after she comes back from her meeting. But we do a lot of different things. The certificate is one of many things that we do with the center and the school. We also do quite a bit of research and other kinds of activities. So, so be sure to have a look at that in case you're interested. So now we're going to have a word from a guest speaker. So Ben is going to introduce himself, but we asked Ben to be with us. I'm sure some of you know Ben because he's been involved in IANTA, and he got his master's degree in sustainable tourism. What has it been, like 2 or 3 years ago? Probably longer. Everything's longer ago than I think it was, but. So Ben is just going to tell you a little bit about why it's important to study sustainable tourism and know more about it. So Ben, go ahead.
Well, thank you. I guess I got to clear the record first. I haven't got my degree yet, my master's degree, pending my final project that I have to turn in. So hopefully Dr. Goodman will see it in her way to grant me a certificate or a master's degree in sustainable tourism. I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Ben Rupert. And I just recently retired as a structural firefighter. I worked in the fire industry for 33 years, retired. Also a U.S. Army veteran. And I am an enrolled member of the Duck Valley Shoshone Paiute tribe. Also, a lot of my heritage goes back to the Washoe tribe, where I grew up on the shorelines of what we call Daho, which is Lake Tahoe, mispronounced as Tahoe. And so that's kind of a little bit of background about myself. I wanted to get into a program after I retired about 3 years ago. I wanted to figure out something that I wanted to do. I've always been a dancer and a cultural presenter, and I travel around the world doing the dance and the cultural presentations of the Great Basin tribes. And so I started doing research, and I found the master's programs at ASU. And then I started researching into it and come to find out that they're the #1 sustainability tourism program in the country. And they're also #2 in the world. And correct me if I'm wrong on that one, Kathleen, but I think that's a very notable thing to have behind you as far as promoting your program. When I got into the sustainability program, you see on there that I'm also the owner of Warriors Path. And Warriors Path was a business that I was wanting to develop and to take people on responsible tourism of the Great Basin tribes. And very shortly after I joined the program, I realized that the biggest impact I can make was not for myself, but it was for the entire Great Basin region, for all of our native tribes in the state, not only in the state of Nevada, but California, and the Great Basin covers 5 different states. And so my focus really shift from trying to promote my individual business to being able to help our tribes in tourism, not only in the state of Nevada, but all those other states that I was just previously mentioned. I learned about the responsibility of tourism, equality, inclusion, sustainability, using a community value approach into doing sustainable destination development. And then one of the biggest things that I really learned, well, it's just kind of like a testament of how important this program was to me in my personal growth, is that I've been a member of the Nevada's Indian Territory, and it's a volunteer nonprofit organization, and we are designed to promote tourism for our indigenous tribes in the state of Nevada. And so I started doing all my writing at ASU based upon the Nevada's Indian Territory and how I could help out everybody as a whole rather than just work primarily for my business. And that led us into when I went into the program, I started learning about a vision, a mission, guiding principles, sustainability pledges, measurable goals. All these things started coming together, and we were able to develop get grant money to be able to promote our website design. And I would encourage everybody to look at our website. Maybe Sherry Bowman could post that up there. It's Nevada's with an S on it, IndianTerritory.com. And in there, you'll see the writing that I did at Arizona State University was the main driving force that you see in our not only our website, but we have a downloadable brochure, and you'll see sustainability pledges. You'll see itineraries to travel around the state of Nevada. And it allowed us to be able to get grant money to be able to develop websites and be able to do trade show graphics. And we're going to be traveling around to several different trade shows, promoting our destination, our sustainability destination development that we did for the state of Nevada for our tribes. But we have 28 tribes that is in the state of Nevada. And then finally, I'd like to end with is that the writing that I did and working with the professors at Arizona State University was really, I mean, so instrumental on us putting together a package, which is based upon my final project that I put in for. And we were just awarded a grant, and it's called the 3D grant. It's called Destination Development Demonstration. And it's a community value approach to develop a unique tourism that is just a destination that people can travel both domestically and internationally, come into the state of Nevada and experience this destination that we're creating. And so the writings that I was able to do at Arizona State University was the driving force to get us this grant. We were awarded the grant, and 6 other destinations were awarded the grant. We have access to approximately $2 million worth of money to be able to fund our project. So that is probably the best recommendation I can give to everybody if you're thinking about joining this program, is that Arizona State University is such a huge guiding force for us, and it really paved the path for Nevada's Indian Territory to be what we figure we came up with our vision, which is changing the world through eco-cultural tourism of the Great Basin. You got, what is eco-cultural tourism? And it's just basically combining our cultural tourism of indigenous people along with the ecotourism into a destination. So I hope I didn't take too much of your time. Thank you very much, and works out.
Okay. Thanks very much, Ben. That was really helpful, I think, to let people know some of the kinds of things that you've been able to do with your program. And obviously yours is a whole degree as opposed to a 1 credit
yes.
program. But even still, you know, there'll be a lot of content included for you all in this certificate program. And I have to tell you, we're extremely impressed by your grant. I don't think any of us have ever gotten 2 million grants. So.
and the other thing I wanted to offer to anybody is anybody that joins this program, or even if you don't join this program and you need any kind of help and direction of how we're able to put in for the grant money, to being able to write things for your website design or your destination development in a sustainable approach, please reach out to me anytime. And I'm retired, so I have plenty of time.
Thanks, Ben. So let's talk a little bit more about the certificate and what's going to be included in it. So there will be 7 modules in the certificate, plus there's an introductory module that's just to kind of get you going in the program, and you know how you get to things. So we're offering this on a course, an online course platform that we use, so there'll be a little bit of introductory information about that. It's actually pretty easy to use, and we're not doing anything super complicated, so you shouldn't have any trouble with that. So in addition to the 7 modules, and each will have, you know, a small kind of assignment associated with them, there's a final project. And those of you who are taking the class for credit, The project is required because you do get a grade, but we're doing it as pass fail, as you can see kind of at the bottom bullet. So it's not as though it's, you have to worry about getting a low grade or anything. So if you're a professional development participant, final project is optional. You can do it if you want, and we're happy to give you feedback. And we have 4 different options available for you that you can see once you get started with the program. So this is over essentially a 7.5-week period of time with 1 module per week. And each requires 5 to 6 hours of credit. That includes the time you spend online, actually listening to, some mini lectures or doing some reading, as well as any kinds of assignments associated with it. And I at least found when I was working on my module, speaking of, we were talking about getting more long-winded as we get older. My biggest problem was keeping the content narrow enough and small enough for the amount of effort required, because there's so much out there we can share with you, but we have to do that in a pretty limited amount of time. So there'll be about, an hour and a half to 2 hours of general class content in a variety of formats. Not everything comes in the form of lectures. There'll be some reading and assignments. And again, we offer it as pass fail. So those are some of the specifics of the certificate program. So the modules include the introductory module that just gives you an overview of the course and an overview of your faculty and who we are. And then also there's information on the final project. So again, we have 4 things you can pick from. So the first module is taught by Rebecca Goodman, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about what she will be teaching in her module.
Hey everyone, it is such a pleasure to be able to speak with you. Ben, it's been an absolute pleasure having you in my courses and learning from you as well. So as Kathy stated, you'll have your sort of intro to the overall course and working in the online format. And then I'll be the first face that you see beyond that. And the Introduction to Sustainable Tourism module is an opportunity for you to have some of the basic foundations you'll need to succeed and get as much you can out of the modules that this means what exactly sustainable tourism means versus what it sometimes is perceived as. And most importantly, starting to retrain the way we think about policies and programming and management plans from a sustainability perspective. So that's one of the biggest challenges, is sort of how we've evolved in looking at growth and shifting that, and looking at things like what are trade-offs and how do we minimize negative trade-offs? How do we always look at long-term sustainability while meeting short-term needs, or never looking at short-term needs at the consequence of not allowing for long-term sustainability? To Kathy's point, it's really hard because we're so passionate about this to keep it at such a short, succinct level. But what you'll get in the introduction class is just enough to ensure that you can get as much out of the other modules as possible, so that your vocabulary and that basic knowledge allows you to really grow as you move throughout the course. So again, it's a great chance in that introductory module to sort of reflect, which is one of our assignments, will be a reflection on how we view sustainability, how we've been sort of, from what we've heard, and what it actually means in the context of tourism, and how we can start sort of activities that start retraining the way that we think and approach things, so that as we look at a management plan, or when we're collecting information, how do we do that from a sustainability lens to ensure that the outcome meets our goals as sustainable tourism practitioners. So that's it. Kathy, do you think I covered everything?
Yep, sounds good. Thank
you. Wonderful. Yeah, it wasn't too long-winded, I suppose.
No, you did pretty well.
Okay. It's really hard.
Our next module, Tourism and Biodiversity, will be taught by Kelly Bricker, who's joined us now. And even though, we're tourism people, most of us are also have a pretty strong background in natural resources and parks and recreation. So we also do quite a bit of work with the National Park Service and other public land management agencies, as well as some of this work internationally. So Kelly will tell you a little bit about her module.
I'm muted. Hello, everyone. And welcome. I'm so glad you're here and you're participating to learn more about our program. This module is very near and dear to my heart. How we can use tourism to really enhance biodiversity and protect those amazing spaces and places that people enjoy visiting. So in this module, we'll talk about some of the impacts to biodiversity and some of the things that you've probably noticed throughout your own lives, what's happening to our environment, and then how we can use tourism as a tool for conservation, protection, and mitigation. And some places are loved to death. You may have heard that term before. And so we look at strategies to help manage the visitors that may be impacting biodiversity in a negative way. And I know another module really gets into management strategies, but we touch on those as they relate directly to biodiversity. And if you can think about the landscapes as both natural landscapes, but also the cultural underpinnings that have meaning for people in these landscapes and how to protect those. We also look at a lot of resources that are out there to help you set up your tourism program or to be engaged in a tourism program, and what you can learn about different mechanisms to help protect biodiversity, help to protect the environment before you may even open up an operation for tourists, for guests. So very passionate about this topic. Like others, there's a lot of information available on this topic. We'll try and sift it down into some critical points, but we'll also have many resources available for you to do further exploration on your own on this topic, and resources that actually back up some of the topics that we're talking about. Kathy, does that do it? Or
yes, it does. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Right. I lost. There it is. Okay. I lost my little mover there for a minute. Okay, so the next module, module 3, will be taught by Deepak Chabra, and that is focused on inclusive and responsible tourism. So she'll be sharing a bit about inclusivity and diversity in tourism, and also introducing the concepts of inclusive and responsible tourism. And we've become, I think, much more cognizant of inclusivity and diversity in the past few years, and that includes in tourism too. So she'll be focusing on some of those things. She'll be sharing some examples with you. So that will be module 3. Module 4 will focus on marketing and social media, and that's taught by Christine Buzinde and Ujin Lee. And obviously marketing is a pretty critical component of tourism, and social media has become a huge part of that. And marketing, a lot of times people tend to think of it as being, just bringing in more people, but that's really not what it is. It really is creating a match between tourism resources that are available in your community and the right visitors. In other words, the visitors that you want to visit. So this will include some of the basic marketing concepts and components of a marketing plan, including some aspects of social media. Say module 6 and 7, or 5 and 6, sorry, that's taught by myself and Nick Wise, another one of our faculty members. And it will focus on sustainable destination planning, development, and management. And we have these 2 modules linked because you really can't separate these concepts out. So sustainable tourism really isn't possible without doing a good job of planning, development, and management of your tourism resources. So that's what primarily we'll be focusing on. And kind of at the beginning, we'll focus mostly on tourism planning. In that module, we'll give you a bit of an overview, but we're also going to provide some information and an assessment tool that you can do to do a community assessment to figure out where you are. You know, it's hard to know where you're going if you don't know where you are. So we'll share that particular tool with you so that you can look at ways to move forward. And we'll also be focusing on tourism development to some extent, primarily product development. You know, we're not spending lots of time there because IANTA does a pretty good job of providing good examples of tourism products. So a lot of that is available through the organization, but we'll spend a little bit of time on that. And then we'll also spend some time on management, particularly visitor management. And some of this overlaps a bit with Kelly's module because visitor management is a pretty major aspect of protected areas. But we'll talk a little bit more about some concepts of visitor management, also give you some resources for that. And, you know, tourism management can be thought of in a variety of ways, but we're going to focus mostly on visitor management because that's probably what most communities struggle with the most, is keeping your visitors corralled and where you want them and behaving appropriately, which is pretty hard to control, but there are ways to help manage that. So those are the things that we're going to be doing. I know Nick is planning to demonstrate ways you can use Google Earth to do tourism planning. And, you know, I really don't know how you do that stuff, but he does. So he'll be sharing some of that with you too. And then our final module will focus on sustainable tourism strategic plans. And that again will be myself, Kian Neopani, and Christine Buzinde. And we'll share 3 sustainable tourism plans with you and talk about them, but we'll also share a bunch of others that you can look at as examples. So we'll focus on both what is involved in strategic plan, the general components that most of those plans cover. Obviously, they differ a little bit from place to place, but we'll be looking at that and then sharing these 3 strategic plans that are all pretty new and all have some interesting components that you can look at. And then the final thing will be turning in your final project for those of you who do that. So let's have a look at your faculty. As you can see, we've got several of this involved in this program. There's 8 of us, and that gives you some, you know, diversity in people that you'll be talking to. So obviously I'm involved, and I am the coordinator for this certificate program. And the classes I teach are an Intro to Tourism class, program planning and research methods. That's at least what I've been teaching for the past year or two. And I tend to focus my work on tourism experiences, particularly related to residents and the way they experience tourism and the way they feel about tourism. And I've worked with a variety of organizations. We're working right now with Navajo Nation for an updated visitor study this summer. We did one for them in 2018. But also with the National Park Service. We also have something on deck for this summer for one of the Park Service sites up in Colorado, with the Office of Tourism, Department of Transportation, and a lot of individual organizations and communities. And I already mentioned what I'll be teaching. So that's me. Next is Kelly. So Kelly, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Again, I came to ASU about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years now. And prior to that, I was at the University of Utah, and I have been studying ecotourism, sustainable tourism, my entire professional career. I used to be a guide. I used to be a travel manager, and we actually started an ecotourism project called Rivers Fiji, located in the South Pacific, working with local communities to help preserve a river through tourism. So I may even share a little bit of that in our module coming up, but I'm engaged in projects that look at destination stewardship and how do we create more meaningful tourism products that help residents and those that visit appreciate the locations that they live and work and play. So that's my area. And I also really enjoy the outdoors and can relate to a lot of the places that are struggling with tourism because of either over tourism or other issues. So very engaged in this field, have been since I was a guide way back when, and happy to be a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. She also, she actually directs our program in China. So
Yes, I'm sorry, that's my full-time job, and I should.
Yeah, that is your
even
full-time
mention
job.
it.
So that used to be my full-time job, but I
Yes.
transferred it over to her. But most of us are pretty engaged in international work as well. Okay, the next person is Christine Buzinde. And Christine is actually the director of our school and has been for a couple of years now. And she tends to focus on tourism marketing and advanced tourism and recreation studies that's for our graduate students, as well as a PhD seminar. And she does a lot of pretty interesting work on community-based tourism and community development through tourism and the politics of tourism representation. In other words, the way people are represented, in the media and so forth, which isn't always very accurate of who they actually are. And she works a lot with marginalized communities and has done a lot of research internationally as well, in Africa, in Central and South America, in Asia. So she's kind of been all over the place. And again, she'll be teaching part of the marketing and social media modules and the strategic plan, some of the strategic plan too. Next is Deepak Chabra, and Deepak teaches marketing and cultural heritage tourism. That's one of her main classes she's taught for a long time, as well as some graduate level classes. And she does quite a bit of work related to marketing, smart and strategic marketing in tourism and hospitality, promotion of ethical production and consumption practices in tourism, and also building social capital in communities. So that's what her focus tends to be on. She's also done some work related to authenticity in tourism and the way things are perceived by visitors. She does economic impact studies as well. She and Nick, who I'll introduce in a few minutes, just did a big one a couple weeks ago for an event here in the Valley. And she teaches the inclusive and responsible tourism module. Next is Rebecca, and I'll let her tell you a little bit about herself.
Hello again. Yes, as Kathy mentioned, I'm the coordinator for the Master of Sustainable Tourism degree. I teach graduate and undergraduate courses at Arizona State University, and I've been doing so for actually over 10 years now. I do a lot of our study abroad programs. Kelly, I've taken many of my students on Rivers Fiji, so if you need any photos or interviews or something, we have wonderful memories of that project and how successful it's been. So a lot of my work is in introductory coursework and teaching. I have had the luxury of doing a lot of research in Mexico and still do. And I'm just absolutely thrilled to be a part of this. It reminds me of why I love what I do so much when I'm able to be a part of these programs. So I'm excited to get to know all of you guys and learn with you.
Thanks, Rebecca. Ujin Lee is our graduate program coordinator for our master's, our MS, Master of Science degrees and PhD programs. And she teaches a variety of things in international tourism, convention sales and marketing, and statistics. And we're all happy that she teaches statistics so that we don't have to. She's been doing research in information communication technology, as well as some marketing and work in the meeting industry. She right now is doing a pretty interesting project with one of her grad students on the adoption of service robots in tourism. So I've never yet had the experience, but yes, there are places where you can be checked in to your hotel by a robot. including one that looks like a dinosaur, which feels a little weird to me, but there you go. So she and her grad student are doing work on that, and it's really kind of cutting edge, interesting kind of work. And she'll be teaching the social media part of the marketing module. Yan Yopani is one of our primary sustainable tourism faculty and teaches some other things too. And he does a lot of work, again, like Kelly and I and others of us do, in natural settings. So he looks at the human environment interactions, especially trying to connect communities to conservation through tourism. And he's done some work in a variety of areas, including up in Utah and Arizona, as well as international work. And he focuses on ecotourism, sustainable tourism, protected area management, public lands management. So a lot of things like that. He's got a fairly recent book out, Cultural Heritage and Tourism in the Developing World, a Regional Perspective. And he wrote that in conjunction with one of our other faculty members. And he'll be teaching part of the Sustainable Tourism Strategic Plans module. And last but not least, just because we're in alphabetical order here, is Nick Wise. And Nick teaches tourism planning, tourism management, and a research methods class. And he focuses on placemaking, social regeneration, community impacts, and a lot of work related to events and the impact of events. So he has a lot of international work as well. He's got a few publications that have come out recently, and edited a book titled A Research Agenda for Event Impact. So events are kind of his big thing. So he'll be teaching along with me in sustainable destination planning, development, and management modules. So let's talk about the fees and so forth for the program. So the fees, $2,450 for IANTA members and $2,500 for non-members. And I think some people will be granted a scholarship from IANTA for some of this. And if you have 3 or more participants from your organization, there's a 10% discount. And you can register for this program. It's open right now through IANTA's website, and the sooner the better, because we do have some logistical things to do on our end to get you into ASU system. So once you get registered, if you're registered for the class, which again, we'll talk about a little bit later for the credit class, things will be a little bit different. But if you're a professional development participants, we add you as an affiliate to ASU, and you'll get more information about this, but you even get an ASU ID number and email address. That's really exciting. That's probably the best thing about all of this. And that lasts for a year. So that's the way we get you into our system so that you can be a part of our program here. And so the last day to register is coming up pretty soon. And even though the actual program doesn't start a week later, we do have to do all of this background, back behind the scenes work to get you into our systems. So we need to have that done a little early. You can register for credit, and we'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. That's available, anytime now that you would want to do that. And you are kind of committed, and that's especially true if you take it for credit. If you register for credit, you will be receiving a grade. Again, it's a pass-fail grade, and it will be on your permanent record. So make sure that you're sure you want to do that, because it will go on your ASU transcript. And we're definitely locked into that university time frame, starting in a couple of weeks through the end of April. So it needs to be completed in that period of time. So keep that in mind. And let me see if you have any questions so far, and that if you have questions about taking the class for credit, we'll do that after this, so that if you don't want to listen to all of that information, you can go ahead and go. But obviously, feel free to stay on too. It won't take very long. So do we have any questions? I'm not seeing or hearing anything. Bianca, do you see any questions? Oh, the
let's
cost?
see. Yeah, what is the cost? I think you just went over that. We don't have any questions in the chat. And no questions in the Q&A.
There
Yeah,
was a question about if this is being recorded, and I believe it is, correct?
Yes, it is being recorded, and we will email the recorded webinar to all the registrants. And we will also have it up on the website by early next week.
right. So you can look at this again, and just as far as the cost goes, let me see if I can get back to that. Yeah, right here it is. Right, so that will be paid through the registration site. Any other questions?
I think there's one in the Q&A now. Kathleen, let me check.
Okay, see if I can get to that. Oh, no, you do not need a tribal affiliation to take the program. That is not a requirement. You can do it regardless of who you are. We're open and welcoming to everyone. Anything else? Obviously, if you think of anything later, feel free to email me. I'd be happy to answer any questions. So let's go ahead and look at the information about taking the class for credit. All right, so again, you can take this class for a university credit. It's 1 credit. And there's a few things that are involved in doing this. So again, the sooner the better, because there's some things that have to happen for this. So if you are a student at ASU, you don't need to do this. But if you're not, you need to apply to ASU as an undergraduate non-degree seeking student. And you do that through ASU Online because we're offering this through our online degree program, right? And there is a fee to do that. You also have to submit a high school transcript, but if you're a professional development participant, you don't need to do that. And I don't think if you're an undergraduate non-degree seeking student that it has to be an official transcript. You just need to demonstrate that you graduated from high school. But again, if you are a professional development participant, you don't need to do that. So if you're going to register through the class, you register through ASU Online, and that's really important. And the class name is TDM, that stands for Tourism Development and Management 294, Sustainable Tourism for Native Nations and Communities, line number 36539. And that's important because this program is specifically for our IANTA participants. It does not show up in the class schedule. So you need to have this information in order to register for it. We're not opening this to ASU students. It's just for you. So make sure that you have this information available. That the line number is especially important. All right, so 36539. So write that down if you didn't do that already. TDM 294. And you can find that by searching through the class and the class schedule. And you can register for a class even though it's not showing up in the schedule. You just need to know this information. So your certificate fee will be paid to the Center for Sustainable Tourism. And if you're taking this for credit, we will pay for your credit. So if you get a bill from ASU, don't pay it, right? Because this is included in your fee if you're going to do this, for credit. So the fee is the same if you're doing it for credit or not. So we will forward the payment to ASU. So just make sure, even if you get a bill, that you don't pay it. And there's more about this on the IANTA website, including this information about the information about how to get in and register for the class. All right, so that's how you do this for credit. It's a little bit more complicated, but at least you only have to do it once. So let's see if there are any more questions that anybody has about the class for credit, not for credit, and anything else that you need to know about. Okay, I'm not.
Any more questions? Yeah.
I'm not seeing anything. Again, if you think of anything, you've got my email there. It was put in the chat. So make sure that you write that down if you want to ask about anything else. And there's more information on the website. So on IANTA's website. So let us know if you think of anything, and hopefully we will see you online in a couple of weeks.
Yes, thank you, Kathleen, Kelly, Rebecca, and Ben for today's presentation on the ASU course. And again, here's Kathleen and Kelly's email address. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to them. And then also we have Rebecca's information as well as Ben's information. And again, we will email the recorded webinar along with the PowerPoint presentation to you all so that you have access to it. I have a couple of announcements to make before we end the webinar. We will be having our Go International Conference here in Albuquerque on April 18th through the 19th. It'll be held at the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center. Registration is open on our website. And also just want to mention our 25th anniversary American Indian Tourism Conference, which will be hosted by the Choctaw Country in Durant, Oklahoma, this October 2nd through the 5th. Again, you can find more information on our website. And if you want to learn more about our other educational program offerings, please don't hesitate to reach out to us here at IANTA. And again, thank you, everyone, and enjoy your afternoon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.